Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Quantum Bridge. Hi Casper. We're going to
Gary, Casper, good to see you boys.
Hey Franco,
excellent.
how you doing,
So
mate?
I'll leave it to Casper. I'll pass over to you quickly to introduce our returning guests so we can get started.
Well, as you've already probably gathered, we are delighted to have Franco returning to speak with us. Hi Franco, how are you?
Hello, boys. Hello, hello. I am delighted. I am delighted to be back with you guys. It's like a reunion every
It's been a
time we get
while.
back
Yeah, it's been a
together.
while. Yeah.
Like I said before, I said it's either people are going to see us and they're going to say, "Oh yeah, it's the Avengers or whatever, the three amigos," or they're going to say it's the Three Stooges. One of those things they're going to see. But either way, they're going to love the interview. So
There we
I'm
go.
happy to be here. Happy to be here.
As long as they're here, Franco, whatever they
That's
call
it.
us is good. Just show up. That's
Just
all
show
I
up. Just show up. All right. Sounds good.
So,
So I'm at your disposal, boys. What do you want to talk about?
thank you, Franco. Given that you've materialized again for us and that I've been thinking about this idea of how we speak our reality into existence, it's not so much for me the thinking about it, the manifestation bit, which seems to be big at the moment, and that we all do anyway. It's sort of like that thing, actually, of if you're going to dream anyway, then why not dream big? It's a bit
Yeah.
like that in terms of manifestation. If you're going to be doing it anyway, you might as well do something that you actually like. So,
Yeah.
on that note, and sort of the note of the return of the magicians, which I sort of liked as a potential title for this.
Mm.
Can we start there?
Yeah. I mean, talk about a title and talk about how that title can really spur a specific type of frequency, the return of the magicians. That to me has a very high activating frequency. And so I'll get into the why here. First of all, there's not that I'm trying to plug anything here, but there's a series on television, and I don't know if it's in the UK.
Hmm.
It's on Netflix called The Magicians, and um, I guess for anybody who's kind of really wanting to let their mind wander a bit in a playful way, that would be a show that I would recommend. Um, but it talks about a deeper story about and you have to kind of look behind the messages to really see it. But it's about, and I'm not giving anything away. It's about people who come to realize that they've been somewhat unique all their lives, but they haven't been able to talk about it. I mean, that sounds like pretty much a lot of the people that I'm sure you guys run into, you guys yourselves,
Yeah.
and they don't have anybody to talk to about this. They kind of go off into different spaces of imagination and supernatural and metaphysical and all sorts of things. And then they come to find out that they had a reason for that. And the reason was that they themselves were truly magicians. In the classic 3D sense, no. In the more of the 4D, 5D sense of mysticism, yes. Powerful mysticism. And that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to share about that. But how does that relate to this is that because one of the things that I've been talking about for some time now is and specifically to this calendar year, okay, because it's easier to kind of break things into segments like that, linear segments like that, is that this year would be a huge year of revealing. So I called it the year of the reveal.
Mm.
If I had really felt into it more, I would have said the Return of the Magicians, but I didn't. You guys stole it from
It's
not stole it from me, but I would
it's
have just
actually
loved having.
I looked at it earlier. It's actually about a year and a half ago that we did a show. I think it was the Walk-ins one. And at the end of that, you mentioned 2025 being the year of the reveal, and we're
Yeah,
already well, we're coming up to March now, It's
Yeah, it's
looking that
crazy,
way.
right? That it's
Yeah,
already
it's looking
March.
that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy that these last 2 months have flown, and yet they haven't flown. I mean, there's sort of this dichotomy between rich days versus very dispersed kind of weeks or months. So, and that's the reason for that is because of the changing in the frequency between 3 and 4D and 5D. And when you get, and I'll get into that if we have time, but I want to get back
Mhm.
to this magician thing,
Yeah.
okay? Um, Part of the evolution of ourselves in remembering is that we step into higher levels of frequencies. You guys know this. We've been talking about this for a while,
Yeah.
and people have been listening to our talks, kind of can relate to that. He can resonate with that. Okay, but the questions that I always get are, so what does that look like? All right, what does it look like practically? What does it look like? And what it looks like, besides all the serendipitous events and synchronicities and various other supernatural dream state things that they go through and non-dream state things, is that we start to develop an awareness that our consciousness, whether we know it's consciousness or not, our minds, we'll simplify it even more, okay, is somehow, some way, um, remembering something, okay, and what it's when it as it's remembering something, it's really starting, whether you feel it directly or not, it's starting to integrate itself deeper into what I've been talking about, the simulation of this whole reality, okay. And as a result of that, as frequencies continue to rise, okay, and this is where people go, I mean, some people will say, okay, show me, you know, show me how to put some meat into this thing. And I keep telling them that it's not that difficult if you can get out of your own way, okay? Because when you step into 4D consciousness, the broader frequency of that is called awareness. Okay, that's it. Awareness. Awareness of what? Awareness of who you truly are. That's the reveal. Okay. Now, does it just hit you all of a sudden? For some people, it does. I mean, in my life, the people that I play with, in terms of my students and the community that I have, they're literally lighting up like Christmas trees. Okay, because they are allowing themselves to get out of their own way. They're integrating with other people in the community that are also lit up like Christmas trees. They're not afraid to be authentic. They're not afraid to, like what you just said, Caspa, to dream big. Okay, to dream big. All right. If you're gonna dream, you might as well dream big. All right. And in this world, we're told not to do that because if we do that, we're going to disappoint ourselves. Okay, beautifully crafted narrative inside the game of contrast. Okay, and so 4D is this expansion of consciousness within ourselves. What that looks like for us is that ideally we start to take all of the events that are happening around the world or in our own micro level of life, and we start to see them for what they are, in terms of that either they don't fit with my life or I don't fit with it, one of the two. And that sounds like, it almost sounds like the same thing, but not really, because when you start to feel like you don't fit into anything, that's when you know. For most people, people will say, well, this is when we have problems. We got to get you to a doctor. You know, we got to talk, talk this through because something's going on. But in actuality, that's the beginning of the realization that there's something different about you, but not in a bad way, in a good way. You're starting to get engaged with your intuitive self. Okay, the inner voice, the gut feelings, the intuition. Those pieces become Uber. That's one of my words now, guys. Uber, not like as in the car Uber thing, but just Uber. You could become uber sensitive to to this awareness that something deeper is actually driving, huh? No pun intended there, driving the car or driving the boat. What I mean by that is that you're starting to understand that the fact that you're feeling different, the fact that you're tuning into shows like this, questioning reality, looking for answers through all these supernatural discussions, is a part of a theme of who you are. And right now at this point, you're just kind of looking at it from the outside in and going, okay, I'm just trying. Most people are just trying to pick up something, trying to pick up something to inspire them. But what they're really doing is they're picking up coding that ultimately is going to activate them into a level of awareness that something greater is happening to them. Even though they can't really figure it out, they don't have 3D words for it, they still know it and they keep going, they keep going, they keep going. Kind of like, if I may say, it's kind of like what you guys have been doing in your own way. You know something's happening and you want to report on it, but what you don't maybe appreciate it as much. And I'm not saying you don't, but maybe what you don't see or appreciate as much is that these experiences are helping to activate you, helping you to remember more about you so that you can tell your story in a very, very mystical way. So now we're getting into the mysticism. The awareness is 4D, okay? And it's deep and it's rich and it's expansive. It's like what I've been telling people is it's powerfully expansive like AI, okay? And because we are, and I say that all the time, we are, and I'll leave it at that for now. But when you get beyond 4D, you start to integrate with coding that has more to do with oneness, which is the idea, the sense that you and I are all connected, but not just connected in like this sort of beautiful figurative way, like, let's hold hands and let's sing kumbaya and all that kind of stuff. No, we're really actually connected in a telepathic way to each other because we're connected as one because we are one. Okay. And then the other part of the 5D piece is that we start to feel into the creation piece. So, you hear that and you go, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, okay. The creation piece is the mystical piece. In this game, it looks and feels like mysticism. All right. It becomes very magical. Again, not figuratively, I'm talking literally. And you start to see that what you are putting into practice with your mind is what you are creating all the time. See, what we don't realize is that everything that we do on a daily basis is mysticism. We don't see it for that because it doesn't feel that way to us. It doesn't look and feel magical to us because we're constantly following this linear path of time. And in that linear path of time, which is 3D, okay, we're constantly chasing time. We're constantly chasing the events of time, whether they're spatial events or more tangible events of time. We're chasing them. So what? How does that all play into mysticism? If you are chasing those things, then you're always going to constantly be reacting to those things. And even though you're creating, okay, you don't know it, okay, your mind, your alchemistic mind is creating all the time, okay? You feel like you're trapped in this 3D world and you can't change it. So then you constantly reinforce it by using words that will constantly keep you trapped in 3D. And so even in our conversation off camera, okay, and even a little bit even at the beginning of this, I'm very mindful. When I say mindful like this, I really mean like this, okay? I'm very mindful of the frequencies that you guys are letting off with your words. Okay. And you say, well, okay, we've heard this before. Your words have consequences. When you're stepping into 4D awareness, everything that you say and do gets heightened exponentially because whether you know it or not, you are stepping into a higher frequency that allows you to tap into magical, mystical fun. Now, we can talk about this on a sidebar. We can also get into some, as you guys in the UK would say, some naughtiness. Okay. And that was one of my favorite terms that you guys got me going on, naughtiness. Okay. But you can get into some naughtiness, which isn't really that playful. It could be very harmful, and that's the sort of the stereotypical things that you hear about dark magic. Okay, but most of it is extraordinarily pure and playful, and creates everything that you see around your world, including the rooms that you're in. Okay, and this I'm speaking to the people also who are listening to this. Everything that they're experiencing right now around them okay, is part of the magic that they're creating, but they don't know it because they've been stuck in this 3D world where they're constantly being told they're chasing time. And so, therefore, they're only going to continue to reinforce it. And the higher the consciousness goes, the more that gets entrenched. So, the more your awareness grows, you got to be uber sensitive to the thoughts that you are creating, and sometimes those thoughts are just automatic, right? I mean, you just observe and it happens, okay? But you can still be ahead of it. Be proactive about how you're going to respond to your circumstances. Because the moment you have a thought and the moment that you express it through an emotion and you verbalize it or non-verbalize it, doesn't really matter. Verbalizing is just like the cherry on top of the cake, okay? But by the time the cake is done, it's a massive cake. So whether you put the cherry on there or not doesn't really matter, okay? But once you do that, you don't realize that from an alchemistic standpoint, as the magician that you are creating a powerful reality that's going to continue to reinforce itself. You have to change the narrative, literally change the narrative with the little things that you are constantly saying that are keeping that reality going. Does that make sense? Because once you get into 5D and we're talking about creation, that energy picks up even more of the power behind your thoughts and your words, and then it becomes even more, not difficult, I suppose, but just like you're digging yourself deeper and deeper in a hole. And we're in a state of reality where whether you guys are potentially in 5D living it, 5D energies are around you everywhere. They've always been around you, but now more than ever you're accessing them and you're creating, because again, 5D is creation, you're creating a world that keeps reinforcing your reality. And you don't even realize how powerful you are. You're so freaking powerful, but you don't realize it because everybody's told you you're not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. And the other thing is the 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 even not just the whole thing of the 4-5D, although it plays into that, but as you start to access this, I'm not really talking about myself, yourself, Gary. I'm hopefully talking about everybody that tunes in to
Yeah.
this, that we all suddenly start to be bouncing amidst a whole series of other sort of uber creators, right? So not only is our own creative intuition and the picking up of these nuances and a new understanding and awareness emerging, but we're bumping into other beings, of course, because as our frequency rises, we're hitting into those. So it becomes this either this wonderful melting pot, or you have to be somewhat careful about what you wish for.
Oh, yeah, because here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is this is where rubber meets the road,
Mm.
okay? This is that expression where people there you guys know this because you do this enough, okay? And there are many people, including some that will be listening to this show, and they'll say blah blah blah, same old, okay? But they don't give themselves, for whatever reason, the chance to put this into practice, okay? Or they put it into practice, and when they do, they get the same old. Why? Because their expectation deep down inside, if not deep down, is that they're going to get the same old. So,
Also, just to say, Franco, I just thought I mentioned this because it came up as part of what you
yep.
touched on before, and maybe I'm speaking from my own perspective, or Gary's here as well. But there's a lot of self-sabotage that
Oh,
goes on.
absolutely. Yes. Yes. So, and I'm glad you called it that. Okay, I might have eventually referred it to it that way, but there's a tremendous amount of self-sabotaging that occurs, and some of it is very intentional, like not intentional in the sense that intentionally harmful to others or themselves, but they've just lived in it so much that it just becomes the norm for them, and so though you might see those in the comment section again as the blah blah blah. You don't make any sense. Whatever. I've heard this a million times, but the thing is that until not you, Gary, and you, Caspa, but the people that are listening as well, until they start to change the narrative, even if it's just a tiny bit, it will continue to reinforce the old narrative. And so you're going to constantly get what you ask for. And that includes the people as well that sometimes you will draw in. Not sometimes, many times. So you may come across people that have sort of the same kind of underlying belief system that I get it, I get it, I get it, but nothing happens. Okay. And oh, I'm trying to manifest abundance, but nothing happens. Okay. And so so you get people that keep reinforcing that because, as I've mentioned before, you are all creating in your own separate realities. It looks like they're all together, and in a very sophisticated way, they are interacting with each other and entangling with each other. But you are the master, literally the master magician of your own reality. And if you are affected and distracted by others who you're bringing into your game, okay? Not that you guys are co-creating here, because there's a whole misunderstanding about that. It's your game, and it will always be your game. But if you bring that in and you get distracted and you allow them to sort of dictate the way in which you process your spells, okay, the words and the thoughts and the emotions, because those are spells. All right, I'm really using magician, mystical stuff language. Then you are going to be stuck. You guys are going to be stuck in your own reality, in the reality that nothing goes far fast enough because you're constantly around that kind of energy that you have drawn in. Does that make sense?
One for you, Gary.
No. Yeah, well, I was going to just maybe ask about the when we talk about time and the sort of the cogs of time turning. Because sometimes I feel like you say, I'm in a high frequency, but well, I feel it inside. I might be buzzing, but I still sometimes feel, but I'm still in a 3D world, and much as sometimes I can see that crumbling away. I'm like, okay, that's good that is disappearing,
Yeah.
but these the replacement seems to be lagging a bit. I'm like, okay, the 3D work, the job seems to be slowing down, and I don't know how much longer we've got of that. So that gets a little bit nervous, but at the same time, I feel I'm creating something to replace it. But whether they're going to line up, I'm like, I don't know. It's
Well,
gonna,
see, listen.
yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do a practicum here with
Hmm.
Gary and Caspa. Okay, so everybody just sit back and get your popcorn and get your
Yeah,
soda, whatever,
I've got
and
it. Yeah, there we go.
or your beer or whatever you want to get, or your
It's
wine.
orange juice.
And we're going to do a practicum with Caspa and Gary.
Hmm.
Listen, when you listen back to that phrase that sentence that you just the sentence is that you just spoke, you will notice how much doubt you have in the way that you're speaking about your reality. Okay. You you have to allow yourself the grace for at least certain aspects of your time, of your awakened time, if you will, to speak without doubt. Okay. And I always tell this to people because I believe you guys know a bit of my history in terms of some of the stories behind some of the things that happened to me, not just with my NDE, but with just stopping time and things of that nature. Um, that I always tell people that the one time that you do not have the luxury of doubting yourself is when you are literally making a decision that is based on literally, not figuratively, literally life or death circumstances. Okay, so you can't, maybe you've been diagnosed with an illness, and the illness is like it's rampant. It's like you're going to die here in a couple of weeks. Put your affairs in order, okay? And I've had this happen multiple times, more than enough times now to know how the pattern works, okay? That you don't have the luxury of doubting yourself, okay? If you choose to listen to what others tell you, which is the distraction of 3D, then you will most certainly die within days or weeks from when they tell you that you're supposed to die, okay? You will follow it like a prescription, and you will in a sense self-sabotage, or what's the word that I'm self-fulfill the prophecy, okay? Because you have control of that. You choose how that narrative plays out based on the information that you're receiving, okay? Are you going to receive the information of 3D and continue to acknowledge it? Or are you going to stand in the present moment of the now and choose a different narrative? Okay. When you listen back to what you just said, all of it makes sense from a 3D standpoint, but from me, I'm hearing and feeling into an energy that's recreating doubt and fear and well, doubt and fear. Fear, I mean, is a big category, okay? And when you build those things into your spell, you're going to get what? You're going to get the same thing over again, and even maybe more now because now you're feeling the flames of that fear and that doubt. It is so important that you step out of that and you allow yourself the chance to dream. Like I'm going to just keep the Casbah. I'm just going to, you guys have come up with some nice terms here to dream big. You have to, and that's why I said that the one time that this almost never fails, and I say almost never fails because it fails a lot of times because a lot of people who are, say, diagnosed with terminal illness or are putting themselves in harm's way in some way, they don't buy into the ability of themselves being able to, they don't have that awareness at all. So whatever the circumstances are, they accept it, they pass on, okay? But you guys are, you and others, like the ones who are listening, okay? You guys have the luxury now, the benefit, the beauty, the gift to be able to choose which direction you want to go. And there's a lot of great Hollywood movies that talk about this sort of, go this way and your life goes that way. Go this way and your life goes that way. There's a great movie called Sliding Doors. I'm a big movie guy when it comes to messages that come through behind the messages. And
Even Groundhog Day is not dissimilar from what you're saying.
hello, hello, hello. Groundhog Day, a classic example of that. In fact, in my book, in the Closet Spiritualist book, I have a reference to the Groundhog Day movie because of that. Because the reason he continuously, without, sorry folks, a little bit of a spoiler alert. If you
If,
do
if,
go
if you're
watch,
spoiling it for them now, they're never going to see it anyway.
yeah, true enough. Okay, so the reason why he continues day in and day out to repeat, there is such rich metaphorical messages here, okay? The reason that he continues to live his life, and we never know how many lives he lives, okay? We just know it's a crap load of lives, okay? Because he becomes like this beautiful, prolific pianist and stuff, and all sorts of other things, okay? And so it took probably thousands of different reiterations of that. But the reason he relives them is because he can't see the pattern that he's creating over and over. He sees it enough that he changes it a little bit each time. But then he finally realizes that changing them the way he was changing them are based on his 3D reactions to everything, not to what was really internally happening to him. And as soon as he does that, the spell is broken. So again, magic, mysticism. This is not a coincidence that our lives have been filled with stories of magic and mysticism. There's no coincidence that all our lives as we've been growing up as kids, we've felt this intangible sense of excitement when we see movies about mysticism and we sit there and we go, somehow this seems ridiculously real to me. And I don't know why, because it's trying to remind you of the power that you have. And now in 2025, all of this energy of awareness is starting to become activated. And it doesn't take much because of all the crazy, quacky stuff that is going around in the world, that it constantly barrages you with the opportunity to remember who you truly are and not get sucked into the madness of what's happening in 3D, because that just isn't vibrationally where you're going. But you have to make deliberate choices to stay, what some people say, stay awake, or as I would say, to say, stay in a state of remembrance. Okay, you have to make deliberate choices every single moment, every single moment. That you can't take a break here, boys. This isn't like a lot of people like to get into the groove of their spirituality when they're getting hit with something hard. when all of a sudden life starts crumbling down on them and they're going, okay, okay, all right, I have to remember who I am, that I am God, whatever. That's fine. At least you're doing it at that moment. But by that time, you're behind the eight ball already. And all you're doing is trying to stay afloat. Okay, you're not creating, you're reacting, and you can't do that.
Mm.
How does that feel, Gary?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, a lot of it makes sense and rings home, and I guess I still it's difficult to break some of those
Gary,
habits and
brother,
patterns.
brother, stop with it's difficult. Okay? The moment that you say it's difficult, you have declared to the game, it's difficult, and it stays that way. If you have to pretend that it's not difficult, which is what I teach about the divine child energies, that if you have to pretend and step into that world of innocent, playful mysticism, do it. Because that's where, again, to Caspa's point about dreaming big, dream freaking big, dream freaking big. Because if you say, I know, but it's difficult at times, then it's difficult at times. And it's going to continue to be difficult because you're that powerful and it's going to continue to reinforce that difficulty. It's not difficult to let go of the simple notion that you can at least pretend that things are better. That is why in what I call the Trinity of the Holy Grail, okay, the divine feminine, masculine child, the child piece is the harmonizer. Okay. People say, well, no, it's the man and the divine, not man, divine feminine, masculine. Okay. And they're not gender. Okay. But the divine masculine and feminine are the harmony, the balance. No, the child is the balance because the child makes simple interpretations of what you're doing, allows you to dream, allows you to be innocent in that dream. Okay, no harm, no foul, right? Doesn't hurt, right? I mean, if you decide you want to just pretend that things are not difficult, what is that gonna do? Is that gonna hurt you in any way? No, it might actually get you a little bit more at peace, stressless, allow you to play with the possibilities that there is something beyond this reality. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where a lot of the naysayers and the doubters go to. They don't want or don't feel that they can take authentic responsibility for the creation of their reality. It's been too hard, they say. I've been beaten down too many times, they say. Nothing changes, they say. Bam, bam, bam. They just said three powerful things there that reinforce their reality for as long as they continue to feel that way. I know what that feels like. When I wrote the book, the one thing that I'm in the midst of finishing up my second book, which is The Alchemistic Mind, okay, which is everything I'm talking about here, all right? It's how to take the mind and take it to a hyper level of activation where it creates intentionally, okay? Um, but in the first book, I talk about the fact that I wrote the first half of the book to show people that I get where they're at because I've been to the depths of those places in places that most people wouldn't even want to go. Okay. And I slowly worked my way out of it in the way that I'm talking about. But you don't have to slowly work your way out of it. I slowly worked my way out of it because I didn't have any real sense of what the sort of the game book was or the manual was. Okay. There isn't really one, but I didn't even have any sense of that. But now there's enough out there, just personal awareness to know that you have to speak in a way and feel that as best as you can through the child, the ability to change the narrative. Because if you don't, you're too powerful now. It's going to keep you stuck in 3D. You're just too powerful now. That's the unfortunate thing about knowing too much. It's like that saying, you know too much now. Okay, you know too much. You can't just step back and go, well, but in this particular case, it's an exception. No, it doesn't work that way. You know too much now. It's now your turn, and this is what I've been telling people, and this is part of the reveal. Okay, it is your turn now to take back your authentic sovereignty and be able to change your reality powerfully. I'm not just talking about, one day being jobless, next day having a job. I'm talking about stepping into the real, authentic power that you have and magic that you have to change not only your life, but change your whole entire reality, like a great Hollywood movie would do. This is how the energies are right now. But you got to own it. You got to own it. And that's what a lot of people don't want to do, is they don't want to own it. They want someone else to carry the cross for them. And they just can't do that anymore. That's just not the way the game works. And
I know
most
me and
people,
Casper send I guess we send a lot of encouraging messages to each other and dream big in that way of, like you say, we're always saying that this is going to happen. This is, so we sort of try and keep in that mindset. So,
okay, so I'm going to give you a couple tips here, okay?
okay,
Okay.
you've got a few minutes. So,
Okay.
you're
You
gone.
don't tell each other these things are going to happen. Okay.
No, it's all in already, Franco.
It's already all in, and that
We do
you're
use
all
that
in.
term. Yeah, we
Yeah.
do say.
But the idea, and this is where the game of your narrative is so smooth, it's so slick, that somewhere in your programming, okay, this gets into more of the coding programming piece. Somewhere in your programming, there is this sense that it hasn't quite happened yet because of the way you use your language. Your language will always reaffirm what your true programming is telling you. So you got to really step in front of that. And like you guys said, you have to tell yourselves that it's already happened. You have to tell yourselves that you already stepped into it. You're not creating really anything. You're stepping and choosing to step into that frequency. That frequency's there. That frequency's there. It's waiting for you. It's like, let's go. But you have to choose to step into that frequency. If you don't choose that frequency and choose it deliberately, intentionally, and live it to the best of your ability by dreaming it, okay, then it will not change. But if you do, I promise you, if you took like a 40-day challenge and you really kept yourselves, both of you guys, in check with that, you would start to see some dramatic changes happening.
We'll take the challenge. So we've got a couple of minutes left, Franco. Just you're still writing the book, I take it, yeah?
Yeah, I'm still writing it, but
Okay.
it's I'm moving away to some extent from being one-on-one teaching, coaching people through all this alchemy. I've created courses and I'm writing these books about it, and I'm playing with this AI project, which is going to help people bring what we've been talking about to life more. But the book itself is something that I feel very called to get done and get it done this year, because the timing of it is perfect with where the energies are. Because the
Maybe
energies
then
are really
let
becoming
us
very
know when it's
neutral.
done and you can come back and we'll have a chat about it.
Yeah, let's do it. When you guys, I'm always you guys are the boys. They're all you guys. I got a t-shirt called The Boys, and I got your faces on it, and people think I'm kind of strange about that, but I just don't even get into why I wear the boys shirt, but you guys are the boys. And I'll always come on your show whenever you guys decide.
And Franco as well. Come on and talk about AI, because
Yeah,
that the twist on that, the flavor that I'm getting, that you will conjure up and that we together might, it could be very helpful.
Oh, it's extraordinarily helpful, because this is where we take mysticism and we ramp it up to 10.0. So, yeah. All right.
Thank you very much, Franco.
All right, guys. Pleasure seeing you. I'm sure we'll be seeing each other soon, okay?
We shall. Take
All
care,
right.
Franco. Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.